Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just ended a tour. Just ended my last tour of the day. Now I'm back in my apartment.
Amazing. Well, now that you're here, we can get started. So thanks everyone for joining our live today. Um, I'll briefly introduce myself and then Elena will introduce herself and then we will get started with the questions. But I'm Yasmin. I am a senior in the College of Arts and Science. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm majoring in psychology with a minor in public health, which is a minor under the School of Global Public Health.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena. I am a junior in the College of Arts and Science. I'm studying English literature on the pre-law track, and then I minor at the Stern School of Business in Business of Entertainment, Media, and Technology.
Um, yeah, so I guess we can just get started with the questions that we prepared beforehand, along with the questions that were mentioned in the Q&A box on Me NYU. But also, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat below. The first question is, how did we choose our majors?
Well, for me, in my case, I always had a passion for reading and writing, so I knew that English was always of interest to me. And then when I was researching colleges, I chose NYU's English program. I think we're ranked number 13 in the world, so we were in the top 20 globally. So I knew that NYU was always going to be one of my top choices. And then just looking at the curriculum for English, I really liked that they had a focus on inclusive and diverse literature. I know that it's a requirement for a lot of my courses to have literature that's done by women of color, literature that's not done in English. Even though it's English literature, it is recommended that we take courses that are in Italian and Spanish. I know for one course I was doing a lot of French reading, so I was interested in having a very diverse cohort of literature when I was picking my major.
Mhm. I think also very similar to you, Elena, I really liked the quality of education that I was going to get in the psych program, and I really liked how the psychology program really focused on breadth and also depth at the same time, because not only do we have like free elective spaces to choose areas that we're interested in psychology, but for all psychology students within CAS, we basically have like two different tracks that we have to complete different requirements in. So, for example, I've taken classes ranging from like social neuroscience to cognition to more like social psychology, personality focused classes along with like abnormal psych. So I really do enjoy the fact that, you're really getting a taste of every single area in psych in order to narrow down like your predominant interests, which is really nice, I think, for an undergrad who's like interested. Um, I guess kind of bouncing off that question, in terms of switching majors or like declaring your majors, how does it really work in the College of Arts and Science?
Yeah, so we aren't required to declare a major until the end of our second year. So you really do have a lot of time to see what you're interested in. I know for me, I was kind of dabbling between international relations and politics since I was pre-law, so I didn't know if it was required of me to be a pre-law student to take a certain major in order to go to law school. And then coming into NYU, after speaking to my advisor, you can really major in anything and still go to law school. So I just majored in what I'm passionate in, and I did take a little bit of time. I took some politics courses, I took some courses in journalism, but after really securing like what I wanted in English, I ended up declaring at the end of my sophomore year.
Yeah, I think most students will have the experience that Elena had where you get to like explore some areas you're interested in before sophomore year. For me, I actually internally transferred into CAS after coming to NYU. So I started off in Steinhardt and then I internally transferred. Oh, CAS is the College of Arts and Science for anyone who's wondering. But I started off in Steinhardt and then I internally transferred into Rory Myers, which is the School of Nursing. And then I decided to transfer into CAS my junior year. And that's when I declared my major in psychology. So that definitely is like not the standard experience of a CAS student. Most people probably just take classes that they're interested in freshman, sophomore year, and then declare their major sophomore year of spring. Um, Another question that's someone had was, what are some support systems we have at CAS in order to help us succeed as students?
I know for me, I really do lean on my academic advisor a lot. I meet with them at least once a semester. And I've been doing that since I was a first year. So I always lean on her. And then after you matriculate in, you have that first advisor. But once you declare your major, you have another advisor within your department of study. So also just within our program, we already have another kind of level of support to lean on. I know the director of the Department of English, her name is Mary Mazzano. She's really great. She sends out monthly newsletters with resources about, finals week, if we need help, if we need resources for our finals or our papers. She gives us lots of access to our library and our resources there. We also have within that email, like internship opportunities. There was like a internship at the Penguin Publishing Company recently. So just making sure that you're being in touch with your department and building those connections. They're really great about supporting students that way.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say the same exact thing as you. I meet with my advisor regularly. I'm literally a senior, but I still met with him before our spring registration for courses, just to double check that, I have everything I need in order to graduate, like for all my general requirements on top of all my psychology requirements. And I think one really great thing is that for our academic advisors here in the College of Arts and Science, a lot of them are actually full-time faculty. So for example, for me, my major specific advisor, he's actually one of the directors for the undergraduate program of psychology. So whenever I have any like course questions or like internship questions, anything like that, I feel super comfortable asking him. And I feel like he's like very, very knowledgeable in all the different concentrations and areas within psychology. So that is really great. And another resource that I wanted to add is like the University Learning Center for undergraduate students. I know that especially for people who might be taking like economics or computer science or maybe biology or chemistry, even physics, there are definitely a lot of really challenging courses. And I think that the University Learning Center, they do a really great job in terms of having enough tutors to help you with one-on-one tutoring if you ever need, extra support for any classes that you're taking. And I know that we also have like a writing program for students who are taking like expository writing, which is a requirement for all CAS students here, and they can like help you review your papers and things like that, which is really great. Similarly, in terms of like support system, do you have a favorite professor maybe, or like a favorite class in CAS?
Yeah, I have a couple. My favorite professor in English that I'm taking right now is Andrew Gurin. He's really cool. I'm taking a literature and environment class with him about literature and environmentalism and ethical land practices. We do a lot of indigenous literature in that course. I also really like Maria Saldana. She's actually in the SCA department within the Latinx Studies program, but she's also in charge of one of our English electives where we talk about Latina feminisms. We talk a lot about like the racial concept of the mestizaje and stuff like that in literature, which is really important to like Chicana movements and stuff. So I really enjoyed like learning from her in my first year, but those are my two favorite professors.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, one of my favorite professors is Professor Ma in the psychology department. He teaches one of our core courses, which is data literacy. He is genuinely just like such a caring, kind professor. During the entire semester, he basically had like a working Google Doc, and we could put in any sort of feedback that we had for him or the class structure in general, and he would reply to like every single comment that we made on that Google Doc. So I felt like I really appreciated that very collaborative, constructive class environment he created. And it really showed that he cared about like his students' thoughts and like what we really wanted out of the class. Another professor I really liked is Professor Mann. She's actually an English professor, but she taught my text and ideas class, which is one of our core requirements on utopias and dystopias. I just really liked how engaging she was, and she brought up a lot of really interesting points in terms of like how like utopian and dystopian literature reflect current society. We read like The Handmaid's Tale, which was really, really interesting. So that was actually a really fun class, even though it was a core. Similarly, outside of classes, are there any like cool or unique opportunities you've had as a CAS student that you want to share? It could be like a study away or like an internship or just anything in general for clubs.
Yeah, well, I'm studying away this spring, so I'm going to London this coming spring. I'm really excited because I know London's literature program that they do out there at NYU London is very like field work focused, like going to the places that Austen and Dickens and Shelley like wrote their works. I know currently like as a student now just domestically in New York City, when I was taking literature 3, which is the American literature requirement for my major, our professor was also very hands-on when it came to our learning. Like we would go to different museums, we would go to different spots in New York that inspired different, you know, authors' works, and stuff like that. So just like really going to these tangible places and learning about the literature. So that was really important for me.
For me, my exciting opportunity is actually also happening next semester. So I currently do research in a lab within NYU. It's actually not housed under CAS, but we do a lot of like intersectional research regarding like public health and psychology. And I've been a research assistant for that lab for around like a year now. And for next semester, I'm actually able to get like class credit through my psychology program. So I'm able to like take one less class and focus more of my time on that lab and on that research, which is really nice. I think this is like a very cool way that CAS ensures that, you know, you have time to like pursue your academic interests within classes, but they also give you class credits for cool opportunities you're doing outside of school. So for example, I know for the like the psychology program, if you have some sort of like relevant internship or some sort of like, you know, research program that you're in, you're always able to apply for, you know, research credit in order to get credit for like whatever research you're participating for in that semester, which is nice. Um, the next question is more about the community at CAS, but how what do you think about the community at CAS? How did you find like friends or like community within this college itself?
Yeah, I know for me, the English literature major cohort is pretty small. So people in, you know, my first class, the intro class for literature, I still take some courses with the people that I took those first classes with. So it does feel kind of small, a little bit more intimate when it comes to class size and stuff. I know when it comes to like student life, I was pretty proactive in joining CAS-based clubs. Like I'm in the literacy advocacy club. I'm an e-board member for that, so I joined that my first year, and I'm still with all of the people that I, you know, met from that first day joining that club. So just doing outreach, making sure that I was researching different clubs with my passions, but also focused on, you know, my college, my cohort at CAS.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it is similar for me. I feel like there's a lot of different resources available here at CES to make sure that you're able to find a community. Because I joined a little later, I think I had like a very established, you know, friend group, community, whatever it is, academic group. So I didn't feel like I needed to try really hard to like find that community within CAS. But one thing that I will mention is that I'm like an international student mentor for incoming freshmen coming into CAS. So we meet like every other Friday, I think, or maybe like once a month on the Friday. And we also do like group gatherings and you like take out your buddy one-on-one, you know, to like a cafe or maybe like a dinner or something like that. And I think it just really helps in terms of like being able to find an upperclassman mentor or friend when it's like your first year here as an international student. So for any like international students who are looking to apply to CAS or like joining, you know, perhaps in the upcoming school year, think about joining this program. I think it's like a very good opportunity to meet upperclassmen and also like other freshman international students, which is really great. But I just want to talk about like also, and I'm sure that Elena can agree, like even though we do have like a lot of different colleges, like it's very very much integrated in terms of like club life here and different student activities. Like a lot of my friends are not from CAS and we still get like plenty of time to, you know, see each other and hang out with each other. Do you have like any thoughts on that, Elena?
Yeah, especially since our clubs aren't exclusive, or at least it's very, very rare. Seldom clubs are like exclusive to colleges or majors, so you can really join any club, whether it be a CAS club or otherwise, and still, you know, be a part of that community.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I guess we kind of answered the whether you only have CAS friends. I'm sure we both have friends outside of CAS. Um, Someone asked more like in terms of academics, is it easy to major and minor and things that are like completely unrelated to each other? And I'm sure you can answer this one, Elena.
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely. Since I think NYU is really good about making sure that our minors are accessible to people regardless of what their major is or what their kind of discipline of concentration is. I've always just been kind of interested in business, like specifically that entertainment sector of business. So when I found out that they have a minor that, you know, anyone can dabble in, I was really excited. And it is very easy and accessible since we are given advisors for cross minoring. So for example, if you're doing English like me, but you're doing like a business related minor, doesn't have to be business of entertainment, you're given an advisor that is specialized within both colleges. So they'll be able to give you that support.
Do you feel like you have enough like time and like credits in order to complete all of your general requirements and also your major and minor in like 4 years?
Yeah, for sure. I think like my advisor is really great. When I was a first year, she like outlined everything for me, like gave me a Google Doc of, you know, all of the credits I need to take, kind of how I wanted to sort everything out, like where I wanted to fit my core in. And I still have space for like fun classes if I ever wanted to take something just kind of completely out of left field just to have fun and experiment. Like she also kind of left me room for that. So I just kind of use that as a guide.
Yeah, I think my major and minor is slightly more related than Elena's, but I echo everything that she just said. Um, Minors at NYU, they're usually around like 4 to 5 classes, and that can fit perfectly within like the unrestricted electives that most CAS students will have. So I've also never had an issue. And like Elena said, I also have like a separate advisor for my minor. So if I ever have any questions about that, I can always go talk to her. And for people who are interested in a major and minor that are perhaps more related to each other or perhaps have more overlap, some classes you're able to double count. So, you know, if you take some sort of like biology class, maybe it'll also count towards your minor. So you won't have to like take two of like very similar classes, you know, at two separate times, which is also really nice too. And also for everyone who's like joining or like still watching, feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat and we'll be more than happy to answer. But moving on, another question that someone had was, how has CAS helped you define or stay on track with your post-graduation goals?
I think for English specifically, my major advisor also works pretty closely with my pre-professional advisor who's like specified for pre-law students. So, you know, making sure that I'm getting as much critical analysis courses as I can, like courses that focus on reading comprehension or like I said before, just critical thinking, since those are the skills that are needed for applying to law school. So just working kind of together with my two advisors, making sure that I, you know, have a really good course load. Both of my advisors are really good with like communicating together, and then, you know, me being that liaison to speak with them about my goals and stuff like that.
I guess I'm not sure if anyone is looking to apply to law school after their undergrad here, but maybe Elena can talk a little bit more about like how pre-law works here at NYU. Like, is it a major? Is it a track? Like, do you have to take any classes? Things like that.
Yeah, so here at NYU, pre-law isn't a major or a minor. There's no required major or minor. You can be in any college, you can be in any discipline that you're interested in. Pre-law is an advising track. So you're given an advisor that helps you out with seeking LSAT prep. They also help you out with your diversity or personal statement. They also help you out with building that law school list, kind of finding what your priorities are when it comes to a law school, and then just kind of helping you navigate that process. And then also helping you out with things like financial aid, scholarships. Every law school is different, so they're really just there to help you navigate the process.
Yeah, and I guess for me, in terms of how CAS has helped me, you know, stay on track with my post-graduation goals, I'm currently applying to grad school since I'm a senior in public health. So even though that's not, you know, directly within the field of psychology, I think having the flexibility to take up that minor in public health, really helped me decide that I did want to pursue this graduate degree. And, a lot of the different areas I learned in psychology were incredibly interesting. So I think like my main focus going into grad school, specifically for public health, is, related to the intersection between like health and like behavior. So I'm really glad that not only did CAS provide enough flexibility so I was able to take up that minor, but also just like the different areas available in the psych department really helped me, narrow down like what graduate degree I wanted to pursue. So that was a really good part about CAS. Another question is, a lot of people are interested in terms of research opportunities or just like research here at CAS, whether it's like STEM or non-STEM. I'm not sure if you have like any experience with that.
Yeah, I've done non-STEM related research my first year. So that professor I was talking about, Professor Saldana, she was doing a research paper about Mestizaje communities, like Mixtec and Zapotec women in Mexico and their migration patterns into California. And she just kind of was lecturing about it, and I don't know what came over me, but I just had the bravery and the courage to ask her if she needed any research assistance. So I went to her office hours, and she was really great. She was very together on that research over the summer. So my first year going into my second year. And that research was really cool. And it kind of gave me some more connections into the Latinx Studies department. And now I'm taking another course about Central American immigration. And so that was because of her. She kind of let me know about that course and that I should continue doing it. And that's also kind of where I found like more professional opportunities like within immigration law. So my research in that sense was a little bit more focused on like me putting in that time to, meet her during office hours and connect with her and ask if she has opportunities. And that was more humanities focused, but I was able to kind of apply that to the internships that I was interested in when it came to like the legal field.
Yeah, for sure. Most of my research is actually outside of the College of Arts and Science, just because I am interested in more so of the public health side of research. But I guess that really does show that, even if you're a CAS student, research is not limited within the CAS program. If there is some research lab that you're interested in within like Steinhardt, which is our School for Human Development, Education, and Culture, or even in public health, like I think NYU really, really encourages interdisciplinary research, which is amazing. But I'm not sure about the English major, but for psychology, for example, we have like an honors program where you can conduct basically independent research, sort of like a thesis paper during your senior year as a psychology student. And that is basically, I guess, CAS's way of encouraging students to do independent research. We also have what we call the Dean Undergraduate Research Fund, specifically for CAS students. So if you have some sort of independent research that you're looking to pursue and you need some sort of funding for that, you're able to apply for the DERF grant and they will financially support you for, whatever research that you're interested in pursuing, regardless of whether it's STEM or not, which is really great. I think someone asked a question, but it wasn't specifically CAS. But I think it's a good time to answer it since, ED1 decisions are coming out soon. They asked, what's your advice for people waiting for their ED1 decision?
I would say spend as much time with your loved ones as possible. Surround yourself with the people and the things that you love. I applied regular decision, but I still understand like that stress of, decisions coming out. I feel like a lot of college students can resonate with that. And I think I regret like holding on to that stress and not like, leaning more on my community and spending as much time with them as possible since, I'm from a state like across the nation, very far away from NYU. And, just spend time with them as much as possible before, you embark on that journey of going to college. That's my advice.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with what you just said. I really want to echo the spending time with your loved ones. I feel like that's such an important process. I know that like the stress really got to me, and I could not sleep the night before. I applied regular decision, but I also could not sleep the night before, and I felt very like isolated, especially because like my parents did not go to college in America, so they weren't really, that well adept in understanding what the college process is like. So definitely spending time with your loved ones, and also like just like regardless of what decision, whether it is the amazing acceptance or even if it's like a deferral or like a wait list or even like getting rejected, like it does not matter at all. It will not like reflect upon your character, and it does not invalidate like any of the amazing work that you've done in high school. So yeah, I would say you should still feel proud and like happy about yourself regardless of like what decision you get during the ED1 decision release day. But for everyone who's like joining or still on live, feel free to drop any questions that you might have for me and Elena. It could be about CAS or maybe something less related. We'll be more than happy to answer. But I think another question that people have is just maybe either like your favorite memory or like a very formative memory that you have within the College of Arts and Science.
Yeah, I have a couple. I know when I was a first year, we had a really cool event where we kind of brought together a lot of the English cohort to go to the Met. And so we were able to kind of like explore the museum together. And it was like one of my first experiences building community and like meeting my first friends. And that was before classes started my first year. So I thought that that was really great that they kind of took that initiative to help students meet their first friends and build community. So I really enjoyed that, and a lot of them are my friends to this day, so that was really fun.
For me, it was also during my first year. This might be a slightly controversial answer, but I loved my expository writing class. I loved my professor. I loved how much freedom we got to write about, topics that we're interested in. And I loved how it was such a constructive writing process where like you can turn in a first draft, the professor would give you comments, you would be able to meet with them one-on-one, talk about your writing, talk about like why you're interested in this project. And I think it really transformed my idea or understanding of college writing, because I'm sure we've all had that experience back in high school where you were forced to write about a prompt that you just like weren't that passionate about. So I felt like that really excited me about like more college writing projects in the future. So I'm really glad that, expository writing is a core class for the NYU core curriculum. Someone asked, what has your experience been like for public health? I think it's a really great minor for anyone who is interested in, anything related to public health. And I do think that it fits with a lot of different majors within the College of Arts and Science. I know friends who are in like sociology, anthropology, even like biology and chemistry who choose to take up a minor in public health, especially for students who are on the pre-med track. I think the minor in public health can expose them to a lot of the different structural inequities that produce health outcomes that we find within the United States. So it just gives them that, larger picture of what, healthcare looks like, what health outcomes look like, and what it really means to be healthy here in the US, which is really great. So I've enjoyed all of my classes. I've really enjoyed the professors too. Yeah. I think in one last question to wrap up our live today would just be, what's like one thing you could tell yourself, back in the first semester of your freshman year?
I would say introduce yourself to all of your classmates and learn everyone's name. I feel like that's so helpful. And I had one professor my second year who made it required for us to memorize everyone's name in our seminar. There was about 20 people, so it was very doable. But I feel like that made all the difference when we were doing discussions and like referring to someone by name, being like, yeah, Yasmin, you had a great point. Like it makes you feel a little bit more like heard as a student. Like academically, it makes you feel a little bit more supported as a student. So just taking that initiative to learn people's names, and also just like that helps you build connections and meet friends as well. But yeah, like learning more about your fellow students, I I would recommend that.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good point. I always feel like so special and like so acknowledged when a professor remembers my name. So
Mhm.
that is a very good tip. I think for me, maybe something similar, but from another perspective, is to get to know your professors. Because I remember my first college class, like I had no idea how to do this assignment and I was so confused, but I was also so scared to talk to my professor because they seemed so intimidating. They were like Dr. XYZ. They had like so many different projects going on. And I was like, they do not have the time for me. I should not ask them these silly little questions. But I went up to them and they're like, oh my God, Yasmin, like, why did you not bring this up like a week ago? It's literally due like tomorrow night. And I was like, yeah, I was scared. But they were so helpful and they were actually incredibly approachable. And they set aside a lot of time for me to talk me through like my first college writing piece. So whether it's your first semester or even like your fifth semester, it's never too late to go, talk to your professors, especially when you do have questions. So, yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope we answered a couple of your questions. And for everyone who did apply ED1, I'm sure that Elena and I both wish you luck when the decision does come out, and we look forward to welcoming perhaps some students and joining NYU very soon.